Hey, it's Matt at RuffHouse Studios, and welcome to Cannabasics. Today, we're going to bake some apples. This episode is sponsored by Cannabis. You can check out their latest episode where they visit King's Garden, to one of the most amazing grow facilities I've ever seen. So be sure you check them out and subscribe at youtube.com/growersnetwork. First step is going to be to prepare to make the baked apples, and for that you're going to need some canna butter. I'm using about 2 or 3 grams of cannabis. I'm grinding that up into a pan with some aluminum foil in the bottom just to make it easier when I dump it out. And I'm going to put that in the oven to decarboxylate for 25 minutes at 250 degrees Fahrenheit. During the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and cube up my butter. For this recipe, I don't need quite a full half a cup. I want to end up with about a quarter cup, so I'm going to put in a third cup. So I'm leaving back a couple of tablespoons. There's 8 tablespoons in the half a cup, so I'm using about 6. And so I'm going to go ahead and dump my decarboxylated cannabis over the top of that butter in an oven-safe dish. I'm going to put that back in the oven, still at 250 degrees Fahrenheit, for about 2 hours. Now, during this 2 hours, but not too early because you don't want your apples to turn brown, you can go ahead and start prepping the rest of it. So about 30 minutes before your cannabis is done infusing. So I'm adding for my filling, I'm adding in a half a cup of brown sugar, then a teaspoon of cinnamon, and then a half a teaspoon each of nutmeg, ginger, and cloves. And that's just going to be for one of the fillings. You can add a lot of things into a baked apple. I'm going to add in some whole rolled oats into there, some raisins. I might add some pecans into one. And then the step that's going to take the longest, depending on how many apples you're doing, I'm doing 4, it took about 15 minutes, is to core off the top, kind of like a jack-o'-lantern, so that you got a little angle on your knife so that when it comes off, it'll be a cap that'll fit back on there. And then gently stick a knife down the sides to core, but not to break through. You want to make sure you don't break through your apple anywhere because this needs to be a sealed container. So depending on how many apples you do, you need to repeat that step as necessary. And you see like that, just like a jack-o'-lantern, just cut it at an angle. And then I'm actually using a metal half teaspoon measuring spoon to core it out. It worked just perfect. And just make sure you don't bust through the sides and get your caps back together and on there. And you can store those in the refrigerator till you're ready. And this recipe, as soon as the canna butter's out of the oven, you can go ahead with, you don't have to let it cool off or anything, but you do need to strain it out. So I'm using a fine mesh strainer, and I'm going to strain out the cannabis from the oil, or from the butter. And I just use a little knife, and a small amount, a spoon, and just on the back side of the spoon, press it through there to make sure I got everything out. It's kind of fun making a little small batch like this sometimes just for a single recipe. And there we go, we have just about a quarter cup of the canna butter. So now all our preparation is done, except for one thing. I do like to brush the bottom of the pan that I'm going to use with a little bit of oil, because these can, if they do leak a little, they'll stick like crazy. And so now you just stuff your apple the way you want it. So I'm putting brown sugar alone in one of them, and with just the spices, and then some of them I'm loading up with everything, and then some of them just with oats and sugar. So you can do whatever you want as far as the fillings go, and you can fill it pretty much to the top. And now you're going to come through with the canna butter, and this is the part where we actually infuse it. And what you want to do is just, with the canna butter still warm like that, you just come and you just drop it in like a quarter teaspoon at a time and let it seep down into the sugar and into the fillings there. And you can repeat it until it stops absorbing or until you've reached your desired level of potency. And I can tell you, you can make these very potent. It'll hold quite a bit of oil in there. And these go in the oven, 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 45 minutes. So after about 45 minutes at 350 degrees, you can see that they started to blister up all around and shrivel up, sort of. You could tell that they're done. Some of the butter has started to bubble from the top around the edges, but it doesn't bubble out or fall through or anything. You can see that they should still be filled to the rim. and that's that butter infused cannabis. It's molting hot, so you need to let these cool off for a little bit. You can see some of the juice may run it down into the pan. When you're serving it, you can just use a spoon and scoop that back into the apples and fill them back up to the top. If it runs over a little bit, that's okay. And you can serve this with some ice cream as a side, or with some streusel or granola over the top of it. I'm serving it just by itself with a sprig of mint just for garnish. And you can see it can make a nice presentation even for something so basic and sort of caveman-like. If you just think of a baked apple, it's a very simple dish, but you can have a lot of fun with it. And you can, like I said, you can make these very potent, and it's an efficient way to get the cannabis into you. I want to remind you again that this episode was sponsored by Cannabis. Check out their latest episode at King's Garden to get your mind blown at an amazing facility. And they are at youtube.com/growersnetwork. I hope you enjoyed this recipe for baked apples. If you did, you can find it at infusedeats.com. Please hit the like button. And if you want to find more cannabis culture videos, please visit RuffHouseStudios.com. This is Matt for RuffHouse Studios. Thanks for watching.